My name is Paul Steffen, and I'm going to be a millionaire by 40. When I was 13, we moved to Africa with my family as missionaries. I had a very hard time growing up in life, a lot of challenges. And to me, money was always a sense of security, because we had very much a scarcity mindset growing up. Money was something that money can solve 2/3 of life's problems. 2/3, think about that. There's other problems that can't be solved, like interpersonal relationships and stuff like addiction or mental issues. Money can or cannot solve that, but you could hire the best doctors, you could hire the best lawyers. If you have a crappy work environment, you just leave, because you don't need to subject yourself to that. So we work jobs we don't like for 45 years, and just hate our life the whole time. We retire with just enough to live off of, but that's the wrong way. So my point here that I want to teach you guys is that it's important to become financially independent as early as you possibly can, and then focus on what your mission is. Okay? I came back to America. I was living in LA making like $1,000 a month. I just couldn't survive. I was taking on debt. So I joined the military because I needed a job. And I was in for 8 years. So I joined with $4,500 in credit card debt. And then a year later, I crashed my car and bought a brand new one, a Corolla, which incidentally I still have. It has 192,000 miles on it, and it still runs fine. And my whole life I've been frugal out of necessity, right? So that has helped me a ton, because I've had struggles in life. So I understand how important it is to money just doesn't grow on trees. Well, it will once you know how to do all this stuff. But money doesn't grow on trees for most people. You have to work for it. I joined in 2006. In 2010, I reached zero. I paid off my car, I paid off my credit cards, March 2010. Then I started aggressively saving and investing. I was saving half my salary for the last 4 years I was in the military. And then in 2014, I got out of the military, and you can see that my income dropped drastically. 2015, my entire salary from all sources, now this is from all sources, after-tax income from all sources, was $16,000. But I've always told myself I had to live within my means. I had no support system, I had no family, no one I could turn to, right? So $16,000 was all I made that year, and I still lived within my means. I managed to save $800 that year. Think about that, $16,000, that's all I made. You have to make it work, okay? Look at my salary. I live in California. That's not a lot, right? What's the average there? Like 50,000 or something? Average was over the past $55,000. That's my average salary, my average total income after taxes. And here's my net worth those years. I started between 2006 and 2010. I was saving into my TSP, Thrift Savings Plan Military 401k. I saved $7,100. Those last 4 years, I saved half my salary, and I got out of the military with $149,000 just from my salary, from my military salary. And that's because I prioritized saving. And as you can see, over time, with my contributions, I continued saving as much as I could. So by the end of last year, my investments grew by $78,000, and we spent $68,000. So we made more in investments than we spent. My initial goal in life right now is to reach 1 million by 40. And when I was here, it's far away, but look at this, look at these jumps, right? So all I need is a 16% return annually for the next 4.5 years to hit $1 million by 40. And that's not too terrible. I mean, it's more, the market tends to return 8% in an average year, but these past few years have been great, and I anticipate it probably will be. But that 16%, if I stop contributing right now, if I continue contributing, it's gonna make it even faster. I want to focus on saving as early as possible. You withdraw 4% the first year, and then you adjust it annually for inflation. If you have $1 million invested, how much can you withdraw a year?
$40,000.
$40,000, 4%, right? So the first year you withdraw $40,000. The next year, let's say your investments drop by 50%. It goes from $1 million to 500. That means if you withdrew 4%, that would only be 20,000. If you're living on 40,000, it's not going to be that easy to just all of a sudden live on 20, right? So the idea is this is supposed to be completely self-sufficient, financial independence. So you never have to work again if you don't want to, but most fireys do. Multiply your annual expenses by 25, and that's going to be what you need to retire early. But there's a better way to think about it. I mean, what if I ask you how much you spend a year and then ask you to multiply that by 25? You have to do it on paper. But if we look at it on a monthly period, so you multiply your monthly expenses by 300. 25 times 12 is 300. That's much easier to do in your head. So most people don't think in terms of their yearly expenses. So that's why I like to say 300, not 25. So think about in your head what you spend every month, multiply that by 300, and once you hit that net worth in stocks and bonds, you can afford to retire for good. The 4% rule is a principle. So it depends what you spend. If your spending is $2,000 a month, it means you can afford to retire on 600. If your spending is $10,000 a month, it means you can afford to retire on
3 million.
The lean fire is your basic survival, and I believe everyone should strive to be lean fire as quickly as they possibly can. Because once you have your basic survival and expenses met for the rest of your life, you can kind of step back, take a breath, you're safe, right? That's how I always think. Money to me is safety. You know, I had no support system, no nothing. I was always worried about losing my job. If I lost my job, I could become homeless. And so I had to become financially independent. There was just no way around it. It just had to happen. So this was what blew my mind. When I realized that there was a number, an achievable number, that means you never have to worry about money again. Of course, there isn't a salary in the world you can't spend. You know, Johnny Depp spends $2 million a month, you know, so there isn't a salary in the world you can't spend. Just keep that in mind. So it's a matter of controlling your expenses, no matter what you make. How much did I make in 2015? $16,000, and I still figured it out, right? I lived with my sister. I paid $500 a month in rent. I figured it out. I didn't spend anything, but I knew it was temporary. I wasn't going to deprive my future self of financial independence just because I wanted to buy something now. Okay? You have to think long term. So, frugality isn't about being cheap. Frugality is about mindfulness of your expenses. So you want to look at every dollar you spend and think, what is the utility I'm getting out of this? Spend on what brings you value and skimp on what doesn't bring you value. If you don't care about shoes, just go to Goodwill, right? Instead of forcing yourself to buy expensive stuff because you really don't care about that, right? So, and at the beginning, you're going to have to tighten your belt. But remember, it is only temporary. He was always very, very poor. He looked homeless. He always fixed up his clothes with safety pins and stuff like that. He never made more than $12 an hour. That was his maximum salary, $12 an hour. He always made minimum wage. He was a gas station attendant and a janitor. When he died, he had $8 million. You know, he had savings his whole life. He started in his late 30s. So teach your kids, when you have kids, or if you have kids, teach your kids this stuff. Get them to start saving money. Have them retire at 25. When they finally leave home at 25 or something, their minds are fully developed, they're fully mature, and they'll have more of an idea of what they want to do. Because when you're 18, 19, 20, nobody really knows what they want to do. So focus on making a ton of money as quickly as possible, with the idea that this is for safety, not for spending. Everybody understand? One thing I want to show you guys is this file I made, and you can download it. It's important, before you can start saving, you need to know what you spend. You need to know what you spend. And you need to have control over your money. You need to start tracking your money. I mean, I do this. I track my money. It's okay to do it with pencil and paper, whatever. So this thing is relatively fast and easy to do. So yesterday I paid for a haircut. So 17 January 20, it cost me $10. $10, that's grooming. You see how simple it is to mark a transaction? Right? So this is what I do. You guys don't have to, but I would encourage you to start tracking your spending. And so this automatically updates. So you can change all that stuff. Anything in yellow in this file you can change. So you type it in. This will tell you what you spent in the last 365 days on that, in that category based on your data, what you input. This is the previous 365 days, so you can kind of see what the difference is. Red is bad, it means it went up. Green is good, it means it went down. And here's your total. And so it's important for people that are wealthy to help the world out with their money. And like Bill Gates does this, you know, Warren Buffett does this. So many famous people do this, successful people do this because it's a principle, they understand this, right? These things you can just, you can see your spending by category. You can see what you spent in specific years. You can see how much you spent in each category. You could pick the month. So 2019, for example, if I want to see what I spent in December, just that. You see November, October, you can look at it. So it's just a bunch of different analysis tools. Next is, I have the income, and then there's a financial overview here. A financial overview which shows like how much you make, your saving balance, net worth over time, the safe withdrawal rate, how much you need to retire, all that stuff. So we spent, what, 68,000, right? 68,360 in 2019. So that times 25 is 1.7 million. So buying is not necessarily good. It's all a money thing. So renting versus buying, you can rent your whole life, and that may not be a bad idea. Just don't assume automatically that buying a house is the right thing to do. You have to look at the numbers. So I will buy a house at some point when the numbers make sense. But right now, I'm just renting until I find a multifamily. I can live in one unit and rent out the rest. And this is for your investments. Oh, this is my returns over time. So since inception, since 2010 or 2006 when I started saving, I've made 11.2%, which actually underperforms the market. The market actually made more. But that's because I moved money around. I jumped in and out. I tried to, and I had to pull some money out, so it's all messed with. But look at this. This is all money that was made for me while I slept.
How do we get the awesome Excel sheet?
Okay, the awesome Excel sheet. So this is it. So I'm going to write it down here. So it's a Google Drive. When you download it, there's going to be instructions right on the first page. There's my email. There's a 10-minute video that explains how to use this file. And I update this every now and again when I see a better way to do something. And so I guess I'll just update it on whatever. So once you see that, check back every now and again, same link, it'll still work. And if the date updated on has changed, go ahead and download the new one. There's a ton of other stuff. There's the expenses, the financial overview, there's your investments. Oh, here's a cool thing, look at this. You can input everything yellow. What does yellow mean?
You can change it.
You can change it. So you can input your investments in here and it'll automatically pull up what your net worth is. So you can update it automatically, and you have to click this. You have to click data and then refresh all. So I don't have internet, otherwise I do it. But yeah. So there's and here's another thing. Debt. So and then debt. If you have debts, debt is a killer. Get out of debt as fast as you can. Like it's an emergency. Okay. So I'd recommend listening to Mr. Money Mustache. Go Google Mr. Money Mustache. I would also recommend for those who want to learn how to invest and do this stuff, read this book, The Simple Path to Wealth. This is the #1 book I recommend. The FIRE movement, this is like top 3 of the books. Another thing I also bought, if anyone was interested, I also brought a bond. This is what a bond looks like. So you guys want to, it's like a piece of paper, $1,000 bucks. It's like, yeah, it has my...
So obviously one of the best ways to invest is a company match 401k, and then a Roth IRA, traditional IRA. And without access to that money until you're 60, what do you do between 40 and 60, if you retire at 40?
Okay. So the money is not inaccessible. There are ways of getting money out of retirement accounts. For example, a traditional IRA or 401k, what you can do is you can roll over that money into a Roth IRA. So a Roth is basically you pay the taxes now, but when you retire, all that money is tax-free.
What do you think of using like one of those
robo investors?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. It's cool. Don't worry about the little things. Worry about actually saving and investing. Focus on that first. You can once with education you can fine-tune all your stuff. Don't worry about that right now. The key thing here I want to show you is that financial independence is accessible, it is possible, and you just need to start saving and investing as early as possible. And don't worry about, anyway, just read this book, please. Read this book. Please read this book. It'll answer all those questions. Like he actually, what I told you, I got from here. You know, so.
Did you do the S allocation there? Like
He does, no, he doesn't do this. This is me. I just, I read a whole bunch of stuff, and I just figured even though I believe the US would be fine over my lifetime, it's not wise to limit it's not wise to put all your eggs in one basket. So that's why, if you do any kind of speculative investment, I invested in cryptocurrencies, but what do you see here?
Not everything.
Not everything. I invested $1,000 in Bitcoin in 2016. It was $450 a piece. Now it's like 8,000. But the bubble didn't faze me because I was still up. So I bought here. The bubble. I bought here. The bubble went here, and now I'm here. But that's still way higher, right? Yeah. So I'm still up 4 times my money. Yeah. So never put all of your money in one investment. If it's speculative, be okay with losing that money. So I invested in Tesla and that blew up. I invested in Amazon, it blew up. I invested in cryptocurrencies, it blew up. I invested in marijuana, I'm down 30%. So, but it was only like $5,000. So if you do decide to branch out, I would recommend, if somebody said, what do I invest in? I'd say index funds. Just index funds. It's simple. You know, once you do your own research, you can figure it out. But beginning, just put it in a total market index fund. Trust that the economy as a whole and business as a whole will continue going up. That's the whole idea. That's why it's called the simple path to wealth. Super simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Okay?
So you don't see any value in advice?
No, there is value in advice. I don't see any value in, I believe that paying 1% to 2% for actively managed funds is detrimental to your financial health. So index funds are great because the expense ratio is so low. And it's been proven that active managers can't outperform the market. Well, actually they can, but only 1% of it. So in any given year, 20% of actively managed mutual funds outperform the market. Because actively managed means you have to pay them a percent, at least a percent. Most managed funds are a percent, sometimes it's more. Hedge funds, they do much more riskier stuff. They charge you 20%, or no, 2 plus 20%. So 2% no matter what you make, even if you lose money, and then 20% of any gain you have. So, but people still make money that way.
I was talking about advice on which mutual funds to choose.
Oh, which mutual funds? Read that book. But in any given year, 20% of actively managed mutual funds exceed the market return. That's any given year. You take them. Anyway, over 30-year time periods, only 1% exceed. It's so incredibly difficult to pick stocks successfully year after year after year, and that's why he wrote this book. That's why index funds were created and all that stuff. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.